In the previous video, I went over the high-level stages of Ismaili history as part of a crash course that I'm doing. What I want to do in this video is start to talk about each of those stages in more detail, and this particular video will focus on the first stage, which is the stage of early Shi'ism. So, following the death of the Prophet Muhammad, which occurred in 632 AD, there was a disagreement in the community regarding who his rightful successor should be. And I don't just mean a successor in terms of leading the community in a political sense, but I mean more so a successor in terms of leading the community in a spiritual sense. There were different factions within the overall community, and by the way, one term that's used for describing the Muslim community is the Ummah, and within the Ummah, there was a difference of opinion regarding who the successor should be, or whether there was even a successor in the first place. A number of people believed that the Prophet hadn't ordained or established or even decreed any type of spiritual successor. There were others in the community, however, who believed that the Prophet had designated his cousin and son-in-law, Ali bin Abu Talib, to be his successor. And that faction, the faction that believed in the spiritual successorship of Ali bin Abi Talib, became known as the Shi'at Ali, or the Party of Ali. The Shi'at Ali, or the Party of Ali. And this name, this appellation, gradually became reduced to simply the Shia. So when we talk about the Shia today, we mean those who, at that time, were the supporters of Ali as the spiritual successor to the Prophet. Now, the Imami Shias recognize Hazrat Ali to be their first Imam, or spiritual guide for the community of Ummah. And beyond that, they recognize a line of Imams, where that line of Imams comes from the progeny or descendants of Hazrat Ali and his wife Bibi Fatima. And by the way, Bibi Fatima was a daughter of the Prophet Muhammad, which is why Hazrat Ali was both the son-in-law and the cousin of the Prophet. Now, among these Imams, there was one particular Imam, Ja'far al-Sadiq, and Ja'far al-Sadiq was the son of Imam al-Baqir. So Ja'far al-Sadiq was the son of al-Baqir. Imam al-Baqir himself was the son of Imam Zain al-Abidin, and Imam Zain al-Abidin was the son of Imam Hussein, and Imam Hussein was Hazrat Ali's son. So you can see that Ja'far al-Sadiq was the son of Imam al-Baqir, the grandson of Imam Zain al-Abidin, and the great-grandson of Imam Hussein. And therefore, there was a direct lineage between Ja'far al-Sadiq and Hazrat Ali through his wife, Bibi Fatima. Now, this particular Imam, Ja'far al-Sadiq, served as the Imam until he passed away in 148 after Hijrah, which is also 765 AD. And Ja'far al-Sadiq was known for his erudition, his intellect, the breadth of his knowledge. He was revered and exalted by both Sunni and Shia Muslims alike. In fact, many Sunni Hadith traditions go all the way back to Ja'far al-Sadiq and so on. And he, in particular, helped develop a more formal notion of imamate. Now, upon his death, there was a bit of confusion, because while Ja'far al-Sadiq had originally designated his son Ismail to be his spiritual successor to the imamate, according to the majority of historical sources, Ismail was not present in either Mecca or Medina at the time of Ja'far al-Sadiq's death. And so as a result, there was a dispute among the Imami Shias regarding who should be the spiritual successor to Ja'far al-Sadiq. The Imami Shias basically split actually into 6 groups along the lines of what they believed were the different groupings of spiritual successorship. So the first group actually refused to recognize Ja'far al-Sadiq's death at all. They believed that he would essentially return back as the Mahdi, or the rightly guided one, and that he would rule before the end of the world. The majority of the Imami Shias at the time, however, recognized Abdullah al-Aftah, and Abdullah al-Aftah was the next eldest surviving son after Ismail of Ja'far al-Sadiq. And this particular group, they became known as the Aftahaya. The Aftahaya. Another group, a third group, a group of Imami Shias, recognized Musa al-Kazim as their Imam. And Musa al-Kazim was also a son of Ja'far al-Sadiq. Now this particular group, the group that recognized Musa al-Kazim as their Imam, they became known as the Twelvers. The Twelvers. And by the way, the Twelvers are also sometimes referred to as the Ithna Asharis. The Ithna Asharis. It is perhaps worth noting that the Aftahiyya joined the Twelvers after the death of Abdullah al-Aftah a few months later. And today the Twelvers represent the majority of Shias today. And they're also called the Twelvers, by the way, since they recognize a total of 12 Imams in their path. Their 12th Imam, however, disappeared without appointing a successor. And the first of these 12 Imams, the first few of them, were common. They were like Ali, Hussein, Zain al-Abidin, Ja'far al-Sadiq. And then instead of recognizing Ismail as an Imam, they recognized Musa al-Kazim, and then they had a line of Imams that went down that route. Now, after their 12th Imam, according to their tradition, according to 12er tradition, their 12th Imam went into occultation or hiding, and he will one day reappear as the Mahdi. There was a fourth group that believed that the Imamate went to Muhammad bin Jafar, who also went by the name al-Dibaj. Now, Muhammad bin Jafar basically died soon after revolting unsuccessfully against the Abbasids. There was a fifth group that held that Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq had actually announced the death of his son, Ismail, as a bit of a ruse, a red herring, if you will, that would protect Ismail from persecution at the hands of the Abbasids. In fact, Ja'far al-Sadiq had attracted the enmity, the ill will of the Abbasids because of his political activities, and he wanted to keep his son safe. That this particular group, this fifth group, believes that Ismail is the true Imam and that he would eventually return. There was a last group that believed that Ismail had actually died during the lifetime of his father, but they also believed that Ja'far al-Sadiq designated Ismail's son, Muhammad bin Ismail, as Ismail's successor to the Imamate. Now these last two factions fall under the category of being the earliest Ismailis, since they followed a line of Imamate that included Ja'far al-Sadiq's son Ismail. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of historical information about Muhammad bin Ismail, the son of Ismail, and Muhammad bin Ismail is considered to be the seventh Ismaili Imam. Now, one reason for this lack, this paucity or dearth of information, is that Muhammad bin Ismail went into hiding to protect himself and really protect the chain of Imamate, more fundamentally, from Abbasid persecution. However, according to many sources, Muhammad bin Ismail secretly traveled to Khuzestan, which is located in Persia, and he traveled there from Medina. The next three Ismaili Imams remained in hiding. They lived secretly in Salamia, and Salamia is located in Syria. And this period basically lasted until 910 AD, during the time of the 11th Ismaili Imam, al-Mahdi. And the end of this period of concealment marks the beginning of the Fatimid period in Ismaili history. Now I want to point out, I think there's some nomenclature worth noting, which is that this roughly 150-year period of concealment is often referred to as the Dawr al-Satr, which means the period of concealment. After Muhammad bin Ismail, the Imamate basically passed hands to three more Imams who had concealed their identities as a means to protect themselves from being persecuted by the Abbasids. And these Ismaili Imams, these hidden Ismaili Imams, engaged in a practice known as taqiyya. It's a common concept that comes up repeatedly in Ismaili history. And taqiyya basically means a type of precautionary dissimulation where the followers of the Ismaili Imam pretended they were members of other religions. They basically hid their true identity as Ismailis because they didn't want to be persecuted as a result, but underneath they were practicing Ismailis. They just weren't open about that fact. Now, in the 280s/890s, there was a unified Ismaili movement that emerged on the world stage, so to speak, and that movement really supplanted some of these earlier factions. And this particular movement, the group behind this movement, called itself Al-Dawa Al-Hadiya, Al-Dawa Al-Hadiya, or simply Al-Dawa. And Al-Dawa Al-Hadiya basically means the rightly guiding mission. The rightly guiding mission. In 899 AD, the Ismaili Imam Abdullah al-Mahdi, and by the way, Abdullah al-Mahdi died in 322/934. Abdullah al-Mahdi became the Imam in Salamia. And he basically proclaimed the Ismaili imamate for himself and effectively posthumously for his ancestors. And he did claim that he was from the same line of descendants, starting at the Prophet through Hazrat Ali and Bibi Fatima, all the way down to the current line. And he was somebody who, as a result, had been appointed as the Imam by his father and so on and so forth, although some of these previous Imams had been in hiding up until that point because there was a Dawr al-Satr going on. There was one particular faction, a dissident faction known as the Karmatis, and they basically didn't acknowledge al-Mahdi or really any of his previous ancestors, these hidden Imams, as the rightful Imams. They also opposed some of the doctrinal changes that al-Mahdi had proposed when he essentially came out of hiding. The Karmatis did acquire a stronghold of their own in Bahrain, but the Karmati stronghold basically collapsed in 470 after Hijrah /1077 AD. Okay, now before I go further with the discussion of the Fatimid period, which I'm going to do in the next video, I think it's worth touching upon some of the doctrines that were established by these early Ismailis. First of all, they drew a distinction between the exoteric, or the Zahiri form, and the esoteric, or batin ways of looking at the sacred scriptures and rituals. Now, the Zahiri forms of rituals can change over time, but the fundamental belief was that the underlying batini meaning that was contained within the Zahiri form, that the batini meaning contained deeper spiritual truths, or haqqaiq. And so the batini form, the batini meaning rather, was eternal and immutable. So up until this point, we've seen so far that we've had a series of Imams in the earliest Shia stages. There was a schism at the time of Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq when it came to appointing his son, or one of his sons, as a spiritual successor. And as a result of that schism, the Ismailis, the ones who believed in Ismail, went into a period of concealment. Their Imams went into a period of concealment to avoid persecution. During that period of concealment, they continued the line of Imamate, and then the Imam Abdullah al-Mahdi basically came out of that period of concealment and became the Imam in Salamia, and really then helped not only come out of the period of concealment, but this really led to the foundation or the beginnings of the Fatimid period, which I'll discuss in the next video.